Hi everyone! In this video, we're going to go through everything you need to know to make a successful switch from classic quizzes to new quizzes. InStructure will be sunsetting classic quizzes sometime in the near future. Now, we don't have an exact date for that yet, but what sunsetting means is that you will no longer be able to create classic quizzes, and any classic quiz that exists that is currently in your Canvas will no longer work once that sunsetting goes through. I want to make sure we're all prepped and ready for that. So in order to prepare for that, we've already done a couple of things here on campus that hopefully you already know about. All of the new course copies for spring of 2025 will automatically transform all of your classic quizzes into new quizzes. And that's going to happen if you requested your copy through me. If you are copying that yourself, it should automatically be on, but make sure that you leave that setting on when you copy your course information over if you are doing that course copy yourself. Also, starting in January, you will no longer be able to create classic quizzes in Canvas. New classic quiz creation will be turned off. You'll have to create everything in new quizzes. If we can successfully get through this, the sunsetting of classic quizzes will not affect us at all. And that ultimately is my goal here. So let's start by looking at what is a classic quiz versus what is a new quiz. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to zoom in down here, closer to the bottom, close this side menu, so you can see my classic quiz and my new quiz a little clearer. So the first thing that everybody tends to ask is, how do I know if my quiz is a classic quiz or a new quiz? Well, there's a couple of ways of telling, but the quickest and easiest way is to look at the little icon that is right next to your quiz. If it is a outlined rocket ship with no color on the inside of it, that is going to be a classic quiz. If it is a colored in rocket ship, if you're logging into this through a browser, generally it's going to be green, but in the app, it might be a different color. As long as it's colored in, this is going to be a new quiz. Let me just zoom back out here. So you can also tell, though, by looking at the quiz itself. So let's open this classic quiz. In classic quizzes, you can see all of your settings from this very first page. You can preview from this very first page, and to edit the quiz, you click the edit button. And inside that edit button, you can access everything here pretty easily. Here are your basic settings that you're very used to by now. Your questions are on this tab at the top. And that's it. This is your classic quiz. If it looks like this, this is a classic quiz. So let me hop back over to the quiz page and let me show you what a new quiz looks like. When you click on a new quiz, it will show you the basic settings, but you can see not everything is here. Your settings as far as the amount of attempts that students can have, the amount of time they have, they're not here just yet. So you can name the quiz, you can give the points, you can set assignment groups, you can set your due dates and things like this, but there aren't any questions. You can see the only thing up here is mastery paths, and that's really only something you're going to worry about if your department has a lot of outcomes set up in Canvas. So you don't really even have to worry about that. One thing I do want to point out on the new quiz initial page is this submission type. New quizzes are built as external tools in Canvas. So this has confused a couple of people. They see the submission type, they see external tool. That's a little bit confusing for them, but don't worry about it. It's grayed out. You can't change it. There's nothing that you can click here at all and change. So just leave it. But in order to get into the questions in a new quiz, you have to scroll to the bottom and hit build. Now this is where things really get a lot different. The build here is basically what we call a block editor, where you can tap inside of each of these blocks to change what you need to change. And to add a block, you click on the little plus button. We'll get into that in just one second. So you can see the questions here do look a little different than they did in classic quizzes. You can also use the line on the left over here to hop to the questions that you need to see, or to the directions that you need to see. Yeah. So this is what new quizzes looks like. In order to turn a already created classic quiz into a new quiz with hardly any effort of your own, it is really very, very simple. Thank goodness Instructure made this a simple process. All you have to do is find your classic quiz in your quiz page, click on the three dots to the right, and click on Migrate. Done. You can see it is migrating here down at the bottom. Now, depending on the size of your quiz, depending on if you have a lot of images, a lot of equations, anything like that, a lot of kind of links and things like that, it might take a couple of minutes for this to migrate. But you can migrate multiple things at once. So if I want to start that one, and I want to do this one as well, and I want to do this one as well, you can do several at the same time. So now you can see my "this is a classic quiz" is no longer a classic quiz. My rocket ship is filled in and it has transformed immediately. Here's my Peregrine tester. Here's my test classic quiz, which is no longer a classic quiz. All of these have automatically been transformed into classic quizzes with just the click of a button. So now let's look at how to create a new quiz from scratch. I'm going to come up to my top, add a quiz. Now, like I said, this Choose a Quiz Engine page is actually going to disappear in January. You will no longer be able to choose classic quizzes here. Everything will just automatically be a new quiz. But for now, we're going to create a new quiz. We're going to call this example. Why not? All right. Now, one thing I do want to mention about the points on a new quiz. Your points that you put in this box don't necessarily have to match the points that you give to the questions. That was something that was not available before with classic quizzes. The points that your questions were worth were the amount of points that the test was worth, no matter what. That is not true anymore. If you want this to be worth 100 points because you, I don't know, need it to work with your weighting, but your questions might really technically only be maybe 25 or something like that, Canvas will automatically do the math there. All right. So you'll set up everything else, set up your assign group. Remember, it is an external tool. That is fine. You can set your due dates here if you want to. And then we need to come down and hit build. All right. So from here, we add our title, example. We add any instructions that we want to, and this is a rich text editor. So from here, you can add in a Google Doc, you can add in a Lucid chart, you can add in links, you can add in files, anything that you need to, images. This is going to let you do all of those different things. So type those instructions if you need to. And when you are ready to add your first question, we're going to hit done, and we're going to click this little plus. So in new quizzes, you have a lot of different options for different kinds of questions. A lot of these are very self-explanatory. Of course, you have your multiple choice, you've got your matching, your categorization, your essay questions, true and false. A lot of these, honestly, my suggestion is just to go in and test it out. Test this out, play around with it, see what it can do. This hotspot is actually a pretty cool one. It's where you can put in an image, and your students need to click on the correct spot in the image that is going to be the right answer. One, though, that I do want to point out is the stimulus. All right, now you'll notice that there is no option anymore for the text no question. In classic quizzes, if you wanted to add in just a line of text or a line of directions, there was an option that you could do that. That is no longer there. All right. Now there is something called the stimulus, but this one is a little bit tricky. And I am going to just fill this out really quick. There we go. Just so it won't yell at me when I try to do things. So a stimulus is going to be something along the lines where students will look over here in this side, they will look at the title, you can add instructions if you want. They will look at this content, and again, this is a rich content editor, so you can add whatever you need to, maybe an image, maybe a Google Doc, anything you need them to. And then you have options down here to show the questions to the right or show the questions below. All right. I like to do questions to the right personally. Okay. So once you add in your content, once you add in your title and click done, okay, your stimulus will only show up for students if you attach a question over here. So let's say we want maybe a matching question. All right. For example, whenever I was a full-time teacher, I would use this stimulus side to give my U.S. history students a historical reading. They would have to go through that reading, and then I would over here add in questions about that reading. But this stimulus over here, whatever you put over here, has to match the questions over here. And you can see that did change the layout a little bit, all right? If you want to attach another question, you can choose what you need to, and then just kind of keep adding things in. Now, what I want to show you is the settings. Now, this settings page, normally in classic quizzes, this was out on the original page that you would click on to edit the test. It is no longer there. The settings are always going to be inside this build page. So from here, you have a lot of different options. You can shuffle your questions, shuffle all of your answers so you don't have to click that inside of every single question. You can give them one question at a time. You can require an access code. You can set a time limit, filter IP addresses, which that's not generally something that people here do. That's a larger security measure. If you're interested in doing that, that's something that you should probably talk to IT about. You can allow a calculator here, and again, that's just so you don't have to click that on every single question. You can allow them to clear their selection from the multiple choice. If they're trying to decide between their answers, and if you're trying to, they're getting confused, you can allow them to just clear it out entirely if you want them to. You can show custom feedback with their results. You can type that in here. This is a rich content editor. All right. And then down here, you can allow multiple attempts, and you have a lot of options here. You can keep whichever score fits your grading policy. You can give them unlimited or limited attempts. You can require wait times between attempts, and you can allow them to build on their last attempt if you want them to. Here is also where you can hide results from students. If you don't turn this on, they'll be able to see everything right from the get-go. As soon as they turn in their test, they'll be able to see what they said, what the correct answers are, everything. So if you don't want them to see any of the results, any of those correct answers yet, make sure you turn that on. You can also pick and choose exactly what they see once they turn in their exam. You can allow them to see the questions, but you don't have to show them their responses or the feedback just yet. All right, but if you want to show them their own responses, you can even go further down here and getting more and more and more detailed in what you're showing them. You can set dates for when they see their responses. You can make sure they can only see it once or only after their last attempt if you're giving them multiple attempts. You can choose whether they see it as correct or incorrect. And even here, you can go even further down. You can show them the correct answer, or you can just say, hey, that was wrong, and not show them the correct answer. And again, you can set dates for those. You can allow them to see their points and show the points that were awarded to them. Right? So very, very detailed there, much more detailed than you were able to do in classic quizzes. Now, one thing I will also notice, if you notice as I was clicking these things, you have this little bar that popped up at the top. And of course, it's not going to do it for me now. There it is. Success, your quiz has been saved. This is one nice thing for new quizzes, is that it saves automatically as you go. Now, the other things that are up here, reports. You can get very detailed reports once your students take this exam. And then another nice thing that is up here for new quizzes is the moderate page. Moderations in new quizzes are really nice because you can either set a single moderation for a student and accommodation for a student for just one quiz, or you can also set accommodations for a student for every single quiz that they will take throughout the semester. So if you have a student who has actual ADA accommodations, they need, let's say, 30 extra minutes on every quiz, you can set that up very easily. So let's go through setting up accommodations for a student for the entire semester so it's automatically applied to every new quiz. So the way that you're going to do that, you're going to click on your student's name, and then you're going to add whatever adjustment they need, all right? Most often it's going to be a time adjustment. So you will add this, you either give additional time, remove the time limit completely if they get unlimited time, or you get a time limit multiplier. So let's say they get 100% time, you would multiply it by 2. If they get 50% time, you would multiply it by 1.5. This is nice if you have different exams that are set for different times. Maybe some are half an hour, maybe some are 2 hours. So that simplifies it and makes it a lot easier for you, where you don't have to add on 50% to every single time. If all of your tests are set for the same time limit, maybe everything is an hour and that's it, you can just set them for an extra 30 minutes if they get 50% extended time, whatever. All right. There's also something new in new quizzes where you can reduce answer choices. This is an accommodation that we don't see super duper often at the Mount, but if you do see this accommodation, you can reduce their answer choices here. And you can point to this little info button. You can see it says it removes one incorrect answer from all multiple choice questions that have 4 or more answer choices. So like I said, that one's not super common, but set whatever adjustments need to be done here for this student for the semester. Click Save, and that student will automatically have that accommodation on every single test for their entire semester as long as they are taking that in Canvas. Now, if you just need to set extra time for a student for one single test, or maybe, just give them an extra attempt or something like that, maybe something went wrong with their computer, any of those things, you do not click on their name, all right? Only click on their name if you need to give them accommodations for the whole semester. If you need to do it just once for a student, click on this little pencil that's all the way on the right next to their name, and you will add in their adjustments here, either giving them additional attempts or giving them additional time or removing that time limit. You can also reduce their answer choices here again. Now, one last thing I want to go over with new quizzes. For those of you who use classic quizzes for a long time, you might know that you always banked your questions in what was called the question banks. And you got to it from this little 3 dots in your quiz page. Well, that is no longer true for new quizzes. New quizzes now use item banks. Now, this is an option that you can put in your navigation. This will only show up for you as the instructor. Students will not see item banks on the side. So in order to actually access those item banks, you need to turn this on in your course navigation. And here is where you can build your banks. Now, as you can see, I don't have any banks in this actual course yet, but I do have a lot of banks that have been shared with me from other courses. People have sent me banks and quizzes to help them out. So if your department is interested in setting up some institution banks so that people from your department can pull in different questions from different banks, contact me. I can help you set that up. But it's also quite easy to share banks with people. As you can see, once a bank is created, you have this little share button over here, and you can either share it with individual people, you can share it with other courses, or you can share it to sub-accounts or the entire institution itself. So you can see it's quite simple to actually do this. This bank, Biology 1, is currently shared with the Science and Math sub-account. So I'm not going to share it out because I did not get permission to do that. But you can see Science and Math is starting to set up their sub-account with a lot of different question banks that many of their instructors can pull from. To add a banked question into a test, all you have to do is click on this little plus button, and this button up in the upper right-hand corner is your item bank button. So you'll choose whatever bank you need. Maybe you need Biology 1, let's just say that. I click on the bank I need, I find the question I need, I hit the plus button, and there it is. And I can continue to add from here. It's not going to close on me. I can add as many as I need to right here. And when I'm done, I can hit the little X, and there are all of my questions. All right, so that was a very quick overview of new quizzes. Hopefully, I thought of everything to show you guys. If you think of any more questions, please let me know. But like I said, the best way to figure out new quizzes, honestly, is just do it. Go in, click on things. You are never going to break anything in Canvas so much that I can't fix it. That's not a challenge, but please go in, play with it, see what happens, click on the different question types, and yeah, happy building.